All right. So today I am going to shill my podcast. Well, me and Justin's podcast, the Wordy Pair. Um, if you liked my coverage of the woke stuff so far, you will love this episode of the podcast because we start talking about a really interesting topic, which is fantasy races and how fantasy races have recently become the target of like this weird. We project this fantasy race onto this real thing, and therefore it needs to be changed to be different from this real thing when it wasn't close to this real thing to begin with. The example that we bring up for starters is orcs, right? Where these weird woke people like project orcishness onto black people, and then like Wizards of the Coast said, "Oh, we're not going to have orcs be like that anymore. We're going to have orcs be like this." And they had someone produce a piece of art that I'll show here that basically turns them into like European style Mexicans, like Spanish, like Spanish Mexicans, right? Where they're ranchers and falconers, right? Not, like if you look at the picture, they're not like Aztec Mexicans, right? They're definitely have a European feel to them in that sense. And like, we joked about like like what you need to do is you need to mix the stereotypes, right? What we need to do is we need to make a mango salsa and serve it in like the hull of a watermelon kind of thing, like use that as a bowl, and it's just it's great because we go into all the different nonsense that's been going on with like people like projecting things onto fantasy races and then saying this is bad, therefore we need to change it, therefore it can't be what it has been before. And, one of the points that we get into is that dark settings like this, or dark settings like do exist, are places for neutral or evil characters to have campaigns, right? Like, you can have a setting where there are things that we consider to be evil today, right? Slavery, whatever, right? But the important point is that you're not playing good characters, you're playing neutral or evil characters, and they interact with those things that we consider evil differently than, regular people would today in general, right? And that's part of what role-playing is. That's part of what makes role-playing fun. It's pretending, it's getting into a different mindset from your own and examining the differences and, trying to figure out, like, what actually, how actually a person with this background might react to this thing. Oh yeah, and sometimes it's just good fun too, playing a villain, playing an evil character. It seems like villains these days have the same problem where they're evil in that they want to kill a lot of people, but they're not evil in the sense that they would use a mean word to describe someone. And we get into more cultural stuff like that. Like, for instance, if you read old school Hemingway, right? What's the book called? A Call to Arms? I think, maybe? But, like, it's the one about his time in Spain where he kind of takes that into his, and like, he describes, like, a bullfight in the book. And he doesn't describe it as if he's, like, blanching and, like, oh my goodness, they're doing a bullfight in friggin' Spain of all places. He treats it as if it's a neutral thing that his character is observing and dealing with, right? And, like, you could, but you'd get lambasted for doing that today, it feels like, right? Like, if I tried to show, or if an author, not just me, but let's say a good author, right? If a good author tried to show some kind of thing that we consider morally evil today, they'd get attacked by people because they're showing this morally evil thing from an amoral perspective. And that's part of making fiction too, is changing, the conditions of the world that your characters are living in. Right? So this podcast is all about that. We make a lot of great jokes. We also talk a little bit about a situation where an author was locked out of her Google account. She was writing a book in the cloud, and it was not like it was a not safe for work book, but fair enough. But she was like writing in the cloud, and like somehow she got locked out of her Google account, and like she almost lost or she may have lost all of her book. But if you go to that podcast episode in the description there'll be a link to the article that I might even put in the description for this video. and this is one of those things that we also talked about in that episode about, like, make sure that you have hard copies of all the stuff that you're working on, right? And this goes beyond just writing. This goes for engineering projects. It goes for, if you're writing notes for like a game that you're working on, like design notes, whatever it is that you're happening to do, make sure that you don't leave it entirely in the hands of a third party that might decide that you don't deserve to use their services anymore. That's another one of the cool things we talk about in the episode. We talk a little bit about the Ubisoft stuff that was going on. We also have a really good short discussion about the tension that you get from melee-focused combat settings as opposed to like ranged combat, right? Like, which is one of the reasons why settings like medieval-style Dungeons and Dragons style settings are so interesting, is because you can build up a lot more tension when the danger has to be a lot more close before you can deal with it, right? Anyway, it is a really, really fun episode of the podcast. And I felt like it just came out on Saturday. I felt like this is definitely something that is worth talking about a little bit and shilling a little bit, because if you find any of my commentary on writing interesting, sometimes it can be a little bit one-sided for me to just be here spouting to the ether. And I'm not going to say that Justin and me are like super disagreeable on things, but in general, it can be a lot more fun when you have two people to kind of back and forth and poke at an issue from different directions and like pick up on like, shortcomings in my particular reasoning, or his, right? So I'll just say, Wordy Pair, Hot Tamales and Bad Orc Lore. Weird title, fun episode. If you like anything that I've said about writing, especially if you find the stuff that I talk about with like woke stuff being... Because like there are some people who just get online and they'll just scream, "This is woke, right?" I feel like, or at least I'm trying to provide a little bit more of a nuanced position and explain why these things have, actual writing problems, as opposed to just calling this woke and screaming at it, right? And so that's what we also do in the episode. It's a lot of fun. If you like any of that stuff, if you like kind of that more nuanced take on this, as opposed to just like screaming at it, you will enjoy this episode, or at least I hope you will. Anyway, and of course, as Justin always does, it gets brought into an anime topic near the end of the episode, but we don't spend too much time on it. Yeah, super fun, and we really enjoyed making that one, and that's all I've got for today. Very short episode, but, I'm pointing you to a thing that you would have to listen to for an hour. If you want to. You don't have to. But it was a lot of fun, and it was fun going through it again and, making the notes and publishing it and stuff. And recording it was fun, too. So, that's all I've got for today. As always, thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. If you want to help support the channel, you know exactly what to do. I don't have to tell you. And I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow with some other goofy writing thing maybe, or who knows. All right, see you all next time. Have a good one.